Welcome to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. Later in the show, host Lanasha Pawadi chats with Yvette Gonzalez, founder and president of Native Sky, providing equitable access to STEM and space-related opportunities for Indigenous communities around the planet. And Andre Bouchard will tell us about Indigenous Performance Productions, an artist service agency that creates opportunities in performing arts for Native and Indigenous artists. But right now, Lanasha speaks with Mikhail Sundust, Executive Director of Digital Connect.
I'm host Lanasha Pawadi. Mikhail Sundust is the Executive Director of Digital Connect and Initiative of Gila River Telecommunications. Hello, Mikhail. It's an honor to have you on our show today.
Hi, Lanasha. Thanks for having me.
And before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey with Digital Connect Initiative, and can you tell us where you're from?
Yeah, happy to be on the show. I am Akamada Autumn and Kipash. I'm enrolled with the Gila River Indian community, and I started working for Gila River Telecommunications in January of 2022. And although Digital Connect has been laying down roots for the past few years, it wasn't until this past year that we really began to sprout with a lot more trainings and community outreach.
Can you tell us more about what is Digital Connect Initiative?
Yeah, well, I'd like to take just one additional step back and say that Gila River Telecommunications, Inc., or GRTI, is the phone and internet service provider for the Gila River Indian community, and it's owned and operated by the tribe. So the idea for Digital Connect came from GRTI's board of directors when in 2018 they were thinking about the future of connectivity in our community and in Indian country more broadly. And they said, what good is it if we maximize access but fail to invest in education and economic development and the future of our workforce? So DCI was launched in recognition of the need to promote digital inclusion, to leverage our broadband connectivity for economic advancement, and to embrace modern technologies as a resource for heritage preservation. So sort of to put it simply, our goal is to bridge the digital divide in Gila River Indian community and Indigenous communities everywhere. And I'd like to give a shout out to my staff, Amanda McDonald, Carmen Baldwin-Ortega, and Tyler Smith. 2022 was our first year being fully operational, and we could not have accomplished all that we have thus far without their dedication and hard work. They make all of our ideas come to life. I'd also like to do a brief shout out to the GRTI board who believed in this cause from its inception and got it all started.
And how is the Digital Connect Initiative bridging the digital divide in Indian country?
So we, Digital Connect is a service, a community service, and we bridge the digital divide through digital skills trainings, support services, and learning resources. We make those easy to understand and readily accessible. And over the long term, our goal is to develop future generations of Indigenous leaders in technology. So currently, we're focused on the digital skills training portion of our mission, and we do that through one-on-one classes, online safety classes, business technology trainings, and skills assessments.
And can you expand on the digital inclusion, economic advancement, and securing the future of connectivity and why it's important?
Yeah, thanks, Lanasha. That's a good question. So digital inclusion is sort of an umbrella term that encompasses all of the activities that bring us closer to digital equity. So digital inclusion comprises making sure people are connected, that their connection is affordable, that it is adequate to meet their needs, and that they have the support and skills to fully engage online. And it's crucial that we begin to secure the future of connectivity for our people. Native communities have often in the past been the last to reap the benefits of a modern economy. And so we're taking action right now to secure our future through emerging technologies and workforce development. And this is important because, we want the next and subsequent generations to be empowered and in command of their futures.
And what barriers in bridging the digital divide, and what do you see happening to reduce the barriers?
So, unfortunately, there are a lot of barriers. If we go back to the topic of digital inclusion, the most significant barrier that an individual might face is a lack of connectivity in the household. And we saw this play out tragically during the height of the pandemic, where Native families couldn't connect because the infrastructure wasn't there to provide broadband in the home. And Native students were trying to complete homework on smartphones, these little small screens rather than laptops or desktops. We had people driving miles just to get a wireless signal to update their work or school. And like it or not, our society has come to really rely on the internet. It's as vital to a community flourishing as water and electricity. And so we've seen a lot of investment over the past 2.5 years, making sure that rural tribal communities have that opportunity to access broadband services and participate in the modern economy just like everyone else. But that's just, one area of access. Cost is a barrier. A lot of times broadband can be cost prohibitive for folks. And then, of course, finally is the lacking requisite skills to use broadband connectivity to its fullest benefit. For example, unfortunately, a lot of young people are not learning how to type using all 10 fingers. We call that touch typing. And so we have developed a curriculum specifically for touch typing and plan to deliver that, deploy that in the next couple of months here in Gila River. And then one last thing I'd like to point out as a barrier is exposure. You don't know what you don't know, right? So we are examining ways to bring emerging technologies to the community and inspire folks to think differently about how they might engage online. When email was introduced in the early 1990s, a lot of people thought it was sort of a quirky fad, and now it's like the foundation of all online work and communication. So what is that? What is the next email?
And Mikhail, can you expand on the 4 core functions: digital literacy, economic advancement, and heritage preservation and STEM education?
Yeah, so if listeners go to our website, you'll see this on the front page, digitalconnect.org. These elements represent a 3-tiered approach to the work that we do. So first is digital literacy. That addresses the immediate needs of our students. Interacting with a new device or using email and web calling, touch typing, online safety, all of these sort of essentials and foundations to technology skills. Second, which you mentioned, is economic advancement, and that's the intermediate time frame, like on the scale of a single generation or a single career cycle. So this is like finding ways to put technology and broadband to use, whether that means upskilling for the job you want or learning how to operate your own small business and the tech tools that are there to help. And the third in this 3-tiered approach is the long-term, multi-generational STEAM education. So that means dedicating time and resources to our youngest community members and thinking about the future of our community. And so you also mentioned finally, heritage preservation, which really we view that as sort of a common thread running through these elements, because we want to make sure that we're culturally responsive in all of our services. We haven't done anything specifically for heritage preservation yet this year, because it's just sort of our first year in action, but this is our vision, our long-term vision that we have it laid out. And we've got a couple of projects lined up I think we can get going in 2023.
And can you tell us more about how you use technology to support heritage preservation?
Yeah, so like I was just mentioning, in 2022, we focused primarily on the immediate needs of our community members. So we spent a lot of time on the digital skills trainings. In 2023 and beyond, I'd like to see us work more closely with the culture experts in our community, developing tools and resources for heritage preservation and education. One opportunity sort of out there is to provide online access to books in native languages. Another is like a historical research tool using virtual maps. I don't want to get too ahead of myself because we haven't quite gotten there yet, but it's exciting to see what's on the horizon.
Oh, yes. And I know one of the the specialties that you guys offer, as you mentioned, was the skill training. Can you tell us about the programs and education you offer for individuals learning new technology?
Yeah, so we host a class twice a month. It's called Bring Your Own Device. BRIC members, who's mostly elders, they come to us with specific questions, and we do our best to help them out. So like one common request is learning how to use Zoom or WebEx, because our tribe uses these tools for virtual meetings, and our elders want to be just as involved now as they were before the pandemic when they could go to meetings in person. So we host that class twice a month. It's very open-ended. We also have an online safety class that can be modified to reach a range of audiences from youth to elders. This is like securing your password and browsing the web safely. We have lessons in Microsoft 365 applications for business use. As I mentioned, we have developed a touch typing course for young people. And we're currently creating a variety of intro-level courses that provide a little more structure and will form sort of like a Computers 101 course. And then lastly, we're an Affiliate Plus member of the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, and we were awarded a grant under the NDIA's Digital Navigator Core program, which allows us to reach more clients one-on-one on an ongoing basis, so we don't have to wait for the next class. We can go to them at their convenience.
And who is eligible for this? Is it only for Gila River Indian community members or any tribal member?
So currently we serve only Gila River members because, again, we're sort of in our first year of operation, and we're getting up and running. We're building out our staff. We're still sort of a small team, but we do plan to expand our service offerings to other tribes in the future.
Your programs, are they only in-person sessions?
So we're starting out at a foundational level, which means a lot of the students that come to us are just starting out with technology. So yeah, we find it beneficial to be in person and have that one-on-one connection with folks. Once you get to the more high-level skills and career technical things, I think we can start to do some online courses as well.
And do you have any success stories?
Yeah, it's been a really fun adventure working with the community members. Two in particular come to mind. The first is it's an elder who, she's a seamstress. She felt cut off from the community during the pandemic, and she lost some clients because we were in quarantine. So earlier this year, she came to us asking for help with promoting her services via Facebook, and we were able to point her in the right direction, and she's been coming to many of our classes since then. So that was very satisfying because we want to make sure that our elders don't suffer from isolation, especially in difficult times like this. So learning to use communications technologies is just one way to do that. Another recent success isn't about an individual, but recently we partnered with the Boys and Girls Club in Saskatoon, which is sort of the capital of Gila River Indian community, to provide online safety training to the students. And it was just very encouraging to be in the classroom, engaging with all those kids, talking about a serious topic, but in a really fun way. So that was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And finally, how can our listeners learn more about the Digital Connect initiative, and how can they contact you if they have further questions?
So I can be reached via email at msundust@GilaRiverTel, that's GilaRiverTel.com. Or, probably the best way to get a hold of me is to check out our website, www.digitalconnect.org. Click on our team, and you'll have access to all of our information. And also, you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Digital Connect Initiatives, all one word.
Well, I would like to thank you, Mikhail, for taking time out to talk to us today to tell us more about the great work you are doing in the Digital Connect initiative.
Awesome. Thank you, Lanasha. I appreciate it.
Coming up, we'll learn about Native Sky with Yvette Gonzalez. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 2423 West Dunlap Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC, and wellness services for the urban Native American community. For more information, call 602-279-5262 or visit our webpage at nativehealthphoenix.org.
Welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm host Lanasha Puati. On the phone with me is Yvette Gonzalez, co-founder and president of Native Sky, providing equitable access to STEAM and space-related opportunities for Indigenous communities around the planet. Hello, Yvette. It's an honor to have you on our show.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Please kick things off for us with an introduction to yourself, Indigenous heritage, and your story.
Thank you. I was actually born in California and raised in Texas, and on the border of Texas and Mexico. And now I travel around the world about 90% of my time, some kind of in the wind, working with a lot of communities around the planet. And that is because for the last 2 decades, I have done humanitarian and international development work, meaning that I respond to countries and communities, Indigenous, marginalized, and otherwise, who are forced to migrate from their home because of either conflict, active war, epidemiological outbreak, or even political disputes and natural disasters. So I've done that for, about 22, 23 years. And in that time span, have developed quite an observation of Indigenous and marginalized communities across Africa, parts of Asia, and parts of Latin and Central America. So that keeps me kind of on the move and not really based anywhere, but definitely working deeply and richly with all these communities. My heritage is Aztec and Mexica, and so I'm second generation in the United States. So my family is kind of spread across the Southwest and the border with Mexico.
Oh, wow, that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Can you tell us more about what is Native Sky?
Yes, Native Sky was born about 3 years ago of a group of us who we had all come from different disciplines, me and my peer group and my colleagues. And what happened is I crossed over from this humanitarian life I had for over 2 decades into the space industry. And I did so because it was a childhood dream. It was also what I had wanted to do when I was a child. And I was surrounded by that because I grew up in a town that was close to White Sands, and there was influence from NASA contracts, and there was all this, activity at the time when I was growing up of looking to the stars and dreaming about our future. But I didn't think there was a plan at that time for me to pursue space without being an engineer or being a flight test pilot or going into the military, which were things that, 16, 17-year-old me did not want to do. I wanted to give back to the world and help in a different way. So when I found out about 5 years ago, or I realized that there was a place in the space industry to reconnect, to engage, and apply my skills, I joined an institute. And this International Institute for Astronautical Sciences is host to so many people of different generations, different cultures, about 64 cultures around the world, countries. And we all come together to do kind of astronautics training, research together. And there were about maybe 9 of us at the time who met through this program and said, well, we all have Indigenous heritage. We all are either Native American, First Nations, Native in Africa. What is it that led us to this opportunity, and why aren't there more people from our communities or with the same heritage or background who know about this and who have access to this? Because we found it, wow, this was online, we applied, it was accessible, and how can we make sure that more people who are like us, look like us, have backgrounds that are similar, can understand that this is available and then have the ability to apply and join. So we came together and started to build out what this could look like, a native program. And we just created this nonprofit this year after already starting partnerships and working with students. And we said, let's formalize it, create a nonprofit that can offer accessible points for Indigenous communities.
And can you let us know what STEM and STEAM are?
So STEM is the initialism for science, technology, engineering, and math. STEAM adds the A, and that's arts. And often that's either left out or not considered because it's soft science or the softer side, but we include it because a lot of students and even younger generations, like emerging generations, really find the articulation of their passion through art. And that can be music. It can be through doing their own podcast. It can be through music. A lot of musicians come into our program as well. But we realize that this expression of interest for exploration, discovery, science, curiosity, often starts through expression of art. And so we welcome that as part of the experience for contributing to what is really space exploration and what is conducting research. A lot of our researchers, including myself, are astrophotographers. And so we capture the night sky, and that is very pertinent to space exploration. So we include the A for STEAM.
Are there very many inventions created by Indigenous individuals?
You know what? There are so many. And, honestly, through the program, we've been learning about what has been not just invented, but really has roots in Indigenous culture, right? Like natural culture. So things like, we had even posted on our social media, like, we're going to start showing some of these inventions. So we started with the suspension bridge, but there are things like kayaks, glasses that originated with goggles to shield from the blinding, snow reflection of the sun. But there are many really minute ones that we take for granted because we use them and they're commercialized today, that stem from Indigenous, not just knowledge and behavior, but just like utility. So yeah, there's a whole list that we want to provide online, and we're going to be sharing that slowly. But we use that sometimes to give interest to someone and say, did you know? And that's a starter conversation for it. That's actually technology. That's actually, engineering. And that stemmed from cultures and communities that were native to a lot of these lands that we use today, that were adopted, adapted, and now are really critical to how we work, how we live, how our communities are building, how urban communities are building. So there's a long list that I don't know all of them because there's so many, but there are a few that are accessible online that you can look up lists of like Indigenous technologies that we use today. And then we are going to be highlighting some along the way of our journey and our conversation. So we'll be revealing and sharing more about those.
Yvette, can you let us know at what age should children be introduced to STEM?
Oh, I think immediately. There's never too young an age because there's so much in our homes and around us that matter to our connection, right? So a lot of the programs that we're going to be offering and that we partner with, like a lot of the groups that we partner with, offer to start as young as 2 or 3 years old to be curious about the environment, to be curious about the world around us, to ask questions about where we're growing up. And in the home, there's, I think about the spin-off from space industry that's in our homes that actually matters to children that they can question. Like, why is there canned food that's preserved on our shelves? How come we can eat that at any time, like weeks later after purchasing it? And that's because the space program had to develop safe food for astronauts to fly, and that technology to protect that food was used in the food industry in the U.S. in the 60s and 70s. And so today we have the benefit of food on the shelf that is preserved and safe for us. Same with a thermometer to check you have a fever, you put that thermometer in your ear, measures your temperature for your fever. And that was radiation technology that was used for infrared research in space. So we have all these small tools and access to things in our home, cell phones, the computer, that were developed through space technology, and that you can introduce to children very young and say, did you know this is why, and allow them the space to ask those questions and have introduced those conversations early, because they soak that up. And I think there's never too young an age to start introducing that.
Yvette, can you let us know what is traditional ecological knowledge, also known as TEK, and how and why should this be passed down?
So that is an excellent question, because even I had become aware of that only in the last 2 years through my other colleagues. Some of our peers are scholars, First Nation scholars, and write about this, but also we've been influenced by other female and male scholars in the Indigenous community who often write about how that traditional Native, Indigenous, and this is to many Indigenous groups. I don't say just to Turtle Island, U.S. or Canada. You find this in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, where there are conversations around what we already knew as an evolved human experience far before there was conversation around what we considered modern science, modern technology. And so I'm learning about this now because I'm actually focusing this with my PhD work, and we try to weave this in and integrate into our program. How do we look at biological, physical, cultural, and even spiritual systems that have evolved for millennia, long before what we call today, advanced science? And how can we grab that, and how can we reintegrate that into solutions today? Because a lot of that was already established. So I'm learning now, I'm far from being an expert, and I work with my team to learn every day. What are those original ways of knowing that apply to research that we do today? And how can we really step back and say, we don't have to reinvent how we do science and technology with modern equipment. How was it done before there was modern equipment? And why was that let go? And how can we reintroduce it? So it is these ways of looking at our context of the environment, our relationship and observations with the environment, and how do we reintroduce that to the way that we conduct science today.
And is there anything else you would like to tell our listeners about Native Sky?
Yes, we have a phenomenal team, and we are very intentional about how we grow our team. So right now we are all women, and it's not that we don't have men. We're just slowly growing. We are all Indigenous from very different parts of the world. So we're coming together because we're passionate about how we give our knowledge forward, that we really highlight emerging leaders, emerging elders. We really want to engage with communities very carefully and respectfully, because all the science that we bring forward, all the projects that we're bringing forward, we want them to be affordable or free. We want to offer opportunities to students educators and their families for being able to do this in your home, being able to introduce this in the classroom and say, okay, so there's a program for mentorship and where we can come in and guide students to build microgravity experiments. We take the cost of that, and then we offer you the pathway towards doing that and show students and educators, oh, we can go and we have access to working with scientists directly. We also want to offer in the future scholarships to join our astronautics program. And so we're building towards that. But there's also opportunity for students to know that they can publish with us, they can conduct research, we can offer the opportunity to learn how to do science. And we work with students as young as 13, and there's programs for 13 to 17-year-olds where you come in, we have you and your mentors work with us on a science experiment or research, soil science, atmospheric science, and those are offered because we want to teach the new generation not to be afraid to publish their research, to learn that they are allowed. They do not have to have a PhD. They do not have to be a formal scientist. They can be citizen scientists. And so we offer the opportunities that others might, I guess, shy away from. They're overwhelmed or they think that's not for me. I don't have a PhD. And we say, no, you can participate. You can be part of this. And you can do this on behalf of your community. Like there's always an opportunity. So we're hoping with our team to expand in the next year, but that we're available for questions. If you want a program for your school, to let us know, we will find a way. We partner with a soil science lab out of California, and they offer to us working with Foldscope, which is origami microscopes, so that you can conduct soil science with us and be part of something bigger. So we have all these opportunities that we want people to know about. Our website will be up soon, and that way you can see all the available programs, the mentors, our team, and then for those who are interested, we can develop something with you that helps your community.
Thank you for sharing that, Yvette. And I know you mentioned that your website will be up soon, but how can our listeners learn more about Native Sky, and how can they contact you if they have further questions?
So on Instagram and Twitter, we are Native Sky Inc., INC. And on there, you can talk to our team. So if you write a direct message, it's to our team. And then our email is nativeskyteam@gmail.com. And no question is too small or impertinent. Anything goes. You can ask us, about a program you'd like to develop, even if you don't see it on our social media right now or further on our website. We are open to ideas of what the needs are for communities. And if we can't do it, we will find you who can.
Well, would like to thank you, Yvette, for taking time out to talk to us today to tell us more about Native Sky.
Well, thank you for inviting us, and we feel like this is time in where we get to share what we're doing and hopefully help more students and more educators. So thank you for the opportunity.
Up next, Andre Bouchard will tell us about Indigenous Performance Productions. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 2423 West Dunlap Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. Native Health Family Health Advocates can help you enroll, renew, or update your access information. This can be done in person, on the phone, or via Zoom, days, nights, or weekends. It's fast, easy, and can make a difference in keeping your health care coverage. For more information, call 602-279-5262.
Welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm host Lanasha Puati. Andre Bouchard is the executive creative producer of the Indigenous Performance Productions, an artist service agency that creates opportunities in performing arts for Native and Indigenous artists. Hello, Andre. It's an honor to have you on our show.
It's an honor to be here.
And before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and about your Indigenous heritage?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Renan, Montana, on the Flathead Res in western Montana. My dad worked for the tribe, and he was enrolled, but I'm not, so I'm a descendant. And I grew up on the res, and I don't know, I was just a nerdy kid who hung out in the library a lot in Arley, Montana, where I grew up, and really connected to, music and dance and theater all of my life, and ended up being sort of the direction I went. And
That's awesome. And tell us about the Indigenous Performance Production and how you started it.
Yeah, so about 7 years ago, I was working as a program officer for Native Arts and Cultures Foundation out of Portland, Oregon. And I saw a pathway for, Native visual artists, that there were museums and marketplaces and things like that they could really find sustainability in their work. And I wasn't seeing that in the performing arts, and that's sort of my thing, is the performing arts. I have a degree in dance. I've spent a lot of time, doing theater and dance. I just welcomed my first child, my daughter, into my life, and I was looking at the future and thinking, well, if she wants to follow in my footsteps, what sort of life would she have? And I took a leap, and I started this outfit because there was really no one out there to connect Native performing artists to these venues and to get them on tour. And I had what I felt like was, the right skills and, knowledge and connection to be able to do that. And so this was back in 2016. And so I had $1,000 and a laptop, and I took on my first 5 clients. It's been a little rocky, but I hung in there, and now 7 years later-ish, I have 14 artists, 14 productions on tour, and we are doing 2 original, supporting around 2 original new productions a year, so getting 2 projects from sort of concept to creation to touring each year, and I have 1.5 employees plus an intern. And it's sort of been a wild ride. It's been extremely rewarding. It's been a ton of work. It's extremely important that our young people see people who look like them on stage,
Oh, yes, definitely. And your work with different artists, have you found that there was a difficulty in Indigenous artists facing what they face in touring or in representation?
Yeah, I don't have at the current moment enough capacity to fulfill the demand, to represent all the Native artists that come up to me. I wish I could triple in size because there's that much demand out there. There's a groundswell of just incredible, brilliant Native artists that are emerging into the world, and my organization is relatively small, and so we're working at capacity right now, and there's so many challenges still. We've made a lot of progress, me and other folk, who are working on this fight too. Larissa Fasthorse is working on the theater front and trying to get Native artists into theaters and that sort of thing, more repertory theaters, which is a little bit different from the touring world. Emily Johnson, who's Yupik, who's been working on the dance front, along with Rosie Simas, who's Seneca and that sort of thing. And so there's a lot of people, like-minded people like me, who have small organizations, and we're all sort of working on sort of all these presenters. So, university theaters, performing arts centers, and that sort of thing. The challenges we're facing still to this day there's a lot of misconceptions. Stereotypes are still pretty prevalent in the industry. And, I get audience feedback from some of these venues that I'm working with from the audience members is like, well, we wanted to see powwow dancing. And I'm like, okay, well, show wasn't built as powwow dancing, or the show wasn't billed as powwow music or anything like that. It was a jazz show, or it was it was a storytelling show. So yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of hesitancy from folk in the industry around engaging with Native and Indigenous content for fear of doing it wrong and getting criticism. And so I do my best to sort of steward these folk, steward them through sort of the process of doing things the right way, making earnest connection to their local Native community, making sure they're serving the needs of their community, making sure that anything they bring into their theater is truly accessible to folk. And yeah, I think I may have rambled a little bit there, but
no worries.
Did that answer your question adequately?
Yes. Why do you think it is important to teach people about Indigenous arts?
A lot of the role that like me and my touring partners end up in is that of an educator. So that we are a diverse and vibrant community, the Native community is. That we are not a cultural monolith, that we are exceptional, and there's genius here. Yeah, and there's just so much work to do about rewriting the story of Native people, because it's been told wrong. There's so many misconceptions that need to be righted, and a lot of those misconceptions are hurtful. And so I want to make the world a better place for my children. And if we can do away with some of these hurtful stereotypes, then we're doing our job. If we can give hope to just one Native kid in the audience and that sort of thing, and one of these shows that we're on tour, and that's worth it, because it's all a matter of, not to be cliche, but it's the long game, right? And it's going to take a lot of effort from a lot of different people to get the truth out there, that we're complicated, that we're I don't know, it's a monumental task ahead of us, and we've made so much progress, but there's so much work yet to be done.
Oh, yes, definitely. Andre, can you tell us about your Global Exchange Artist Program?
Yeah, that's a great, that's a partnership with my organization and the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation. And every year they choose an area of the world to bring in international artists. And this last round, they focused on Indigenous artists from New Zealand and Australia. So New Zealand Maori and Australian Aboriginal. And so the process of that is they gathered panels of Maori and Aboriginal artists, and they selected a number of groups. And so I am working with 3 Aboriginal touring groups, Emma Donovan and the Putbacks, Nairi and Bangara Dance Theatre from Australia, and Adamira Dance Company from New Zealand. And those tours, wherever they go, I've made all efforts to connect them in Indigenous exchanges wherever they go. For instance, like Nairi and Emma Donovan are both visiting Montana, and while they're there, they're making reservation visits. They're doing collaborations with Crow artists and that sort of thing. And it's just an opportunity because we can learn a lot from, our Indigenous brothers and sisters abroad about how they've, rewritten, what was written about them, and how they've managed to find, political power, and how they've managed to find, social capital. And so, many of my aspirations were given to me in mentorship by Australian Aboriginal teachers that I've had from our First Nations brothers and sisters in Canada, and that sort of thing. And so, if I find strength that we have this, growing international Indigenous connection in the performing arts, and that there are exchanges that are being planned, and there's just a lot to look forward to at this particular moment in time.
And Andre, can you let us know how can our listeners learn more about Indigenous performance production, and how can they contact you?
Yes. Our website is indigenousperformance.org. And really anyone can get my time. I talk to anyone who wants to talk to me. And so I put my email out there freely. So andre@indigenousperformance.org is usually the best way to get a hold of me. If you know of any young, upcoming, or performing artists who's really curious about, different ways of making a living, a sustaining, finding sustenance in their music, in their dance, in their, if they're interested in getting into theater. A lot of what I do is I connect people within the industry, both to funding opportunities, but also to organizations, and that sort of thing. And that's really my mission, is to make a difference for Native performing artists in whatever way I can.
That's amazing. I would like to thank you, Andre, for taking time out to talk to us today, to tell us about all of the great work you're doing in the Indigenous performances, and telling us more about your Indigenous performance productions.
Of course, it's been an honor.
Thank you for listening to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and 90.7 FM KRDP. Our executive producer is Susan Levy, sound engineer is Javier Quiroga, and our host is Lanasha Puadi. We hope you will tune in again next week. If you have any questions, please reach us at nativetalkaz@listen2krdp.com.